There we go. It's on. So thank you for joining us on the presentation this morning. I have got some additional background and questions from John earlier today, so we're doing our best to squeeze in everything that has been added. So the agenda that we've prepared is the following, and I hope this covers everything that we need to cover today. Well, here's Jamel. Let's try it again. Oh, success. Jamel, are you hearing us? I'm hoping that's a yes. So Oscar did a little bit of digging, and we did mention that it's been, I think, over 2 years, but we did do a proof of concept for Barbados Revenue Authority, and Oscar did work with some of the people actually I think that are on the call today, but we did do a presentation as a result. So we did connect to those systems, and we did do a summary. And that presentation we recorded. It's about 20 minutes long, but it does show a lot more detail than we could certainly do in a generic demo. So what we thought might be very important is if we started off with that, this at least sets a context that's very specific to your systems and Revenue Authority. It's about a 20-minute recording. And then we thought after that, we could get into, we can use the system as needed, or we can switch gears and talk about, how we would attempt to do the same things using Tableau. And then I know there were some questions that John was asking with respect to pricing. So I'm happy to discuss those. And I have been following up on some of the questions that came out about the data residency. I can tell you in the case of Birst, I have confirmed that Birst is an option available to us through the Quebec, Canada option. So at least that's a certainty. So I know, again, I know the sensitivity of the issue of data residency in an on-prem versus cloud, but I did want you to know going into the Birst presentation, where, to remind you, we don't have an on-prem option. It's a system that was written exclusively for the cloud. There is no on-prem option, like with Tableau that started as on-prem and now has migrated to the cloud. That still leaves a legacy option of on-prem still available to customers. But in the case of Birst, we do have the Canadian option. So with that, if that agenda works for you, what I can have Oscar do right now is turn on the recording of the specific concept presentation that we had. Does that agenda work for everyone?
Sounds good. Yes. Thank you.
So, Oscar, I'll let you go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'll start the video, and at the end we can resolve all the questions that you may have. Okay.
Good morning. We're going to present the Birst proof of concept that was created for the government of Barbados. Okay. My name is Oscar Delgado. I have been working on this opportunity for some days. I have been working with Paul Warren and Michael Burleson on the proof of concept, and this is the result. So this is a diagram that is showing what the companies usually have. In your case, you have different systems. Some of them are located in different networks and cannot be accessed from one network to the other network. You have Asecuda, for example. Then you can have also some analytic files. You may have some different data sources. And when you want to combine information from all the different data sources, sometimes it's not easy to do it because you have to take information from here, take information from there, then copy and paste into Excel, do some calculations there, and then produce the report. And at the end, you may have some errors because people is not or have mistakes when they are writing the information on the Excel file or the Excel spreadsheet. And what we want to do with our solution is that we want to provide a solution that you can use to combine the information from all your different data sources into one. And that's what we covered using this proof of concept. So this is what we have. We have the Birst instance on the cloud. And on the Birst instance, after we created everything, we created connections to all the different systems that you have. So on your company, you have different systems like Asecura, Lentax, Tamist, SmartStream. You have another instance of a SmartStream in Treasury, which is located on a completely different network and cannot be accessed from the BRA network. And you have also some additional systems like DAT and others. So what we achieved is the following. I was able to extract the information from all the different systems into our Birst repository. I was able to do it by installing a component from Birst called the agent. I installed one agent on the BRA network and another agent in the Treasury network, and I was able to extract all this information into my Birst repository on the cloud. After having this information on the cloud, I was able to create business definitions for the different data sources and also enforce the data governance. So what is the data governance? That means that you have information that that is correct. We can ensure that the information is correct. We can ensure that the information is available on time, and we can ensure that all the organization is looking at the same definition of the information instead of having different definitions. Like, for instance, in one place they calculate something this way, and in a different place they do the same calculation in a different way. With the data governance, we are ensuring that everything is the same for everyone, which is much better. On top of that, I created different spaces. What are the spaces? The spaces are like independent repositories of information. So we have independent extractions of the tables, joins, created reports, dashboards, security independently. But we can share some of this information using the network BI that we explained before in prior meetings, allowing the different spaces or different entities from the government to share some of the information in a very easy way by using the network BI. So after creating the different spaces and after creating one space where I combine the information from all your different data sources to be able to produce the performance schedule report, which was our objective for this proof of concept, then I was able to give you the possibility to create ad hoc reports and do data discovery using the business definitions that were created on the proof of concept. You can also create dashboards, so include KPIs, includes different kinds of visualizations, include filters, and have everything on the same screen from various systems at the same time or from every system one by one. You can also have the possibility to use or analyze this information from mobile devices like tablets and cell phones with iOS or with Android operating systems without having to redevelop anything else. Everything it's ready. So you create the definition once, and then that definition is available in every different platforms. And we have the possibility as well to create what we call the pixel perfect reports. Those are reports that have specific formats, and you can create the total here, and you can add the logo, and you can add the title, subtitle, and you organize the information in a very specific way. We can do it using our reporting solution, which is called Designer. And we also offer what Birst calls the Birst Open Client Interface, which will allow to share these business definitions created on the Birst repository with other tools. So you can have a no DVC connection to the Birst repository and use the information that we have defined in our Birst repository and access that information from different systems that are not part of Birst. This is what we call the presentation layer, and this is what will be available for all the users. So in summary, I was able to connect to 5 different systems located in 2 different networks, extract the data, combine the data, create business definitions, and enforce data governance. And then you are able to do data discovery, create dashboards, analyze this information from mobile devices, create reports that are very well organized, and have this information available using the Birst Open Client interface. So now let me show you this on, let me show you the final result. Okay, so this is the Birst instance that we have on the cloud. So on your left, you will see that I created different spaces for the different systems. I have one for Asecuda. This is BRA Asecuda. It has some of the information from Asecuda. Then I have the BRA complete, which is the space that I use to combine the data from all the different systems to be able to produce the performance schedule report. Then I have another space for land tax, another space for smart stream at BRA, the smart stream at the Treasury. I have another for TAMIS. And let's start with the complete. So this is the final result. This is one of the components called Visualizer that the user can use to create ad hoc reports and do data discovery. So let me start by selecting which kind of analysis I want to create. I want to create a table report. I just select table. And then I can start adding information. What you see on your left is the business definition. In the business definition, I have different measures. In this case, I have only a couple measures. I'm going to use the transaction amount. And then I'm going to use different attributes coming from your different systems. I call that the BRA rep combined, which is the report combination. And then I can start adding additional columns like the sub-account name. That's how you organize your accounts. Then by account name, then by account code, then by reporting level 1 name, then by reporting level 1 code, and I have everything organized that way. Then I can also filter this information. So let's say, okay, I want to see this information only for July of 2018. Well, I can search for the year-month combination. Year-month, I'm going to drag that to the filters. And then as simple as this, I will select 2018-07, which is July. That's the information I want to filter. I click apply, and my report is complete. Then I can select that instead of seeing only the first 100 records, I want to see all of the records, and then I can create some groups. So I can group this information like this. I want to break by the reporting level 1 code and reporting level 1 name, and this is the end result. So in a matter of maybe 1 minute, I was able to reproduce the report, the performance schedule report, just by dragging and dropping and using my web browser. So this is what the end user will see. Business definition on your left, and then with the business definition, the user can start creating the visualization as needed. Okay, this is the end result, but I was able to produce more things. So let me switch to another tool called Designer. So Designer is the pixel perfect reporting solution. So I recreated the same report using Designer because I have more flexibility here when I want to generate the report with more formatting and everything else. So what you see right here is the Birst space inside. So I have like one Birst space with all the different data sources, but I can organize the content by creating folders, and all this definition is stored in the cloud. Everything is in the cloud. So I organized everything by dev, then I have designer, and then in designer, I created this report, the performance schedule, the revenue performance schedule report. So as you can see, I have the same report, but now I have the title, subtitle, I can use the logo, I can analyze the actual period, which in this case is July 2018, against the previous period, which is June. And I can see the total for goods and services, the totals for taxes on property, the totals for special receipts, and the total for BRA. I evaluated and I verified these figures with the IT people, and they confirmed that the figures that I'm showing are correct, that are the figures coming from the various systems that I was using for the proof of concept. But it's not only creating the report, we can export this information. So let's say that you want to see the same report in PDF format because you want to share this information or print this report. So you just click the PDF, it will generate a PDF file. Then you select the PDF file, and this is the end result. This is the PDF report, or the report in PDF format. And this report can be printed or sent via email if you want to. Let me go back. And not only, you can not only see this information in PDF, you can also see this information in Excel. So let's say that you want to use this information and move that information to Excel because you want to add something else, or you want to keep an Excel version of the report. No problem. You just click generate the Excel file. It's gonna generate the file. Then when I click the file, it will open Microsoft Excel. It's opening right now on my computer. Let me bring it, the presentation. And this is the report that was generated in Excel format. So as you can see, it's the same report, but now in Excel. And you can modify in Excel. You can add more information or delete or do whatever you need to do on the Excel report. I'm going to close this version of the report. And let me show you something else. Let's say that you want to share this information with a group of people automatically. So with Birst, we have an option, a really nice option to do report bursting. So we can automatically send this report to a group of people or to one person, and we can schedule how often we want to send this information to everyone. So I just go to my administration option in the Birst instance. Then I can go to the report scheduler. And here in the report scheduler, I can define the schedule that I want to use to generate this report. So I can give it a name. Then I can select the report that I want to share. In this case, I can use the designer report, for example. And then I can define which formats I want to use. So I can generate the report in PDF only, or I can generate the report in PDF, in HTML and Excel versions at the same time. I can also generate the file for the report in PowerPoint, in rich text format, which is a format that Microsoft Word understands, or a CSV if I want to send this information to another system, or you just want to have this information in a CSV format. Then I specify the file name that will be used, the email of the person that will be receiving the report, or I can use the report-driven option. With the report-driven option, I can create a list of, let's say, 50 different emails for 50 different persons, and Birst will automatically distribute this report to those 50 persons when I want to do it. Then I can go to the email option, and from here I can specify what will be the subject on the email, and I can specify the body for the email. For example, this is the report for the monthly report. Birst admin. Then I can go to the schedule tab, and in the schedule tab, I can specify how often I want to distribute this report. So let's say monthly. I want to do it monthly, every third day of the month at, let's say, at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's it. Then when I save my definition, the report will be sent automatically every third of the month at 8:15 to one person or to the group of persons that I define. Okay, but what else was included, or what else we included on this proof of concept? As I mentioned before, I also created one burst space for every system. So I created one for Asicuda, and with the Asicuda space, I was able to produce a dashboard to let you analyze this information in an easy way, or to give you some visibility to this information in a very easy way. So let me open first the Asicuda.
So Oscar, a quick question over here.
Then I will go to the dashboards. And for
Yes, John.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I thought you were presenting and speaking. So, so the question is, so this proof of concept was done in 2019, right? I could see from the initial screen.
Yes,
But
correct.
is it the same version are you showing, or is there any updated version of Burst?
There has been some modifications to the application. They made an improvement to Designer. So at that time, the Designer component for the Pixel Perfect reports was using Flash. That was replaced, and now they have a Designer version in HTML5. So that's the only modification. They also modified the administration piece of the component, and now everything is using HTML. So for the most part, those are the modifications.
You're saying for the past 3 years there will be no major upgrades?
No, they have been doing many improvements to the tool, but that's one of the main improvements was that replacing that Flash version for a newer technology. And of course, now the performance, every time the performance is getting better, they are improving different things on the application.
So features and functionality wise, it's the same?
Yes.
Well, John, I mean, keep in mind that in the world of cloud, there aren't these big major upgrades, right? Everything is incremental. So there's a long series of small incremental changes being made, practically on a monthly basis. So it's not like an on-prem system where you're, accumulating something over a year or two, and then there's a major upgrade, kind of like what you're dealing with Cognos, right? In cloud, you don't notice that because it's just continuous. You have a roadmap, you're alerted to what's coming in advance so that you can have a chance to test and see whether there's any impacts on it.
What if there are customizations, those patch fixes won't be a hindrance? That won't be a problem, right?
No, because there's not really customizations. I mean, everything you're doing in the application works the same. The rule of thumb is, it's rare that they turn anything off. They, usually add. So, there's always transition. Now, if there's some major swap out of technology, then they alert you well in advance that that's coming. Again, that's part of the roadmap. So there's a continuous back and forth dialogue. And of course, you've got test and development servers to check these, and measure the impact. But again, the purpose of cloud is to keep everybody really on the same release at the same time, so that the organizational impact is minimized, right? That's the same on the financial systems.
So all I wanted to say was that can we look at the latest version, because 2019, I mean, that sounds quite old. That's the reason why I was raising.
No problem. Yes, at the end we can switch to the current version and show you what has been modified or the new functionality.
But I think, depending on the audience, we should be careful with their time, because it's not going to jump out at the obvious person who's not a developer, the subtle differences between one and the other. I think we're kind of still dealing with big picture concepts here in terms of your strategy, right? We should, I just want to make sure we have time for the more important considerations you're dealing with in terms of the security. We still wanted to show you Tableau. I know you wanted to cover pricing. So
we can deal with Tableau in another call. So we can limit this call only to Burst, I would say. Maybe in order to cover all the features, right? I think time won't be sufficient for Tableau in this call.
Okay. Well, we were prepared to squeeze that in. That's the reason why I was highlighting the time. So should we carry on with this? And then again, we've got the live version. The reason, maybe you came in a little bit late, John, but the reason why we were starting with this is because this was a specific POC that speaks specifically to your data. Now, I know the use case is slightly different because this was really combining treasury data with BRA data so that it could produce one report, that really complex report that's produced in the treasury that's manually cobbled together from really a large number of spreadsheets. So that was the use case that we were addressing. But since the majority of the data did in fact come from BRA, we thought it was, relevant for us to show you that, the architecture of what you would be doing is really identical in terms of what we would do in terms of setup, except of course, the treasury is not part of the equation. That's otherwise everything
Or we'll
else.
still want to, not to cross you, sorry, we'll still want to do that exercise. So right now we still go through the process, and Dimitri's on this call. He'll bring in import data, he'll bring in fuel data coming straight to the treasury. So to do that combination at the end of the year, he does a comparison between what we have collated and what the treasury is showing, and they talk to each other every couple of days on it, and etc. So that whole picture view, we still want to very much automate, because right now it's not, as you say, it's 1,000 spreadsheets and we're pulling from 1,000 places, right?
Well, the
Question
key
there.
thing here then is what we were talking about with the network BI and the agent, that resides on each person's network. That is how you publish your data, and they consume your data and merge it with their data from Cloud Suite. Now, of course, we've moved on from the data source being SmartStream in both cases, but the concept remains the same. Like, you're really the one providing your version of the truth, and that's getting melded with theirs. So they only ever see what you decide to share with them, and that is the version of the truth both sides are using. So
And
we can
that's
still
perfect.
do it.
And that's perfect. And at the end of the day, we also end up trying to reconcile for them to a
Yes.
large extent as well. Because we're the largest piece, it then makes sense that we sort of pull in the small bits and make it one view. So we may very well have a large impact on the whole picture at the end of the day, even if it sits at the treasury level.
Yeah, I imagine the requirement hasn't gone away, and I just want to reassure you that Cloud Suite doesn't make this harder. It makes it easier, because now your financial data is really already in the cloud, right? And it is accessible by Birst. So what's outside of it is simply the on-prem solutions for Asecute, Atamis, land tax. So the complexity of this POC is actually gone down somewhat because of the fact that you both moved on to Cloud Suite.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay.
And we did look, maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but we also have looked at, because of the sensitivity issue around the data, I did look at Canada, because when we first had the conversation, what I was looking at was expanding the existing licensing for Birst that was really acquired for this project. This same POC was the reason why they acquired these additional users at the government, was to proceed with that project. Mm-hmm. So that there's a certain number there. Maybe you need additional users for your side over and above what we're envisioned for this project. But that would be a very incremental add-on. It's just adding a handful of users. I've got that pricing here. I can share with you what that costs. Those mm-hmm. prices were locked in for the term of the government subscription for Birst. Their initial 3-year term goes through to September of this year. So those prices are locked in till September. So there's no question what those are. If the Revenue Authority, however, chose to have its own instance of Birst separate from the government, and let's say that one was in Canada, then it would be a different price, because we're setting up literally your own installation in Canada separate and above. But I'm trying to I have not for this call got the final pricing to do that. I'm trying to leverage the fact that you're still connected with the government, but there's hard costs because it really is a differently managed installation in Canada. But we would then connect
But
that.
after it ends in September, then we probably would have to renegotiate the government contract anyway, right?
Oh yeah, we're in the process of doing that. We're very close to finalizing that. What it doesn't do is it doesn't have price guarantees for additional users. It really deals more with the subscription, the current subscription costs. But they wouldn't change dramatically. I mean, I certainly
Yeah, but if you're negotiating whole of government in Virginia, that doesn't make sense for us then. So you should probably raise that in your negotiations. Who are you speaking to?
It's still the same people, whether the data centers in Canada or, to be honest, anywhere. And we're still always trying to leverage the fact that at the end of the day, the government of Barbados, whether it's in connection with the hospital or BRA or NHC, it's one taxpayer. So and we've always been able to do that. So that's really not the problem. It's just that there is a hard cost because it's not buying users for an existing site. It's buying a new setup completely. But we then have to have Birst talk to the data lake that has your financial data in Virginia. So that's still Infor to Infor. It's just your own physical Birst instance in Canada talking to a separate physical instance in Virginia. Otherwise, you're talking to Asacuda, SIGTAS, and all the, TAMIS in the very same way. It doesn't matter. Architecturally, it doesn't matter which Birst instance you're using. It's going to be the same amount of work effort to do that. So there's just that, that one aspect, whether you have your own separate instance or whether you leverage the one in Virginia, that changes architecturally how we would deal with getting your data from CloudSuite. That's the only question mark. The rest remains the same no matter how we do it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense from your perspective, I guess, and your negotiations. From my standpoint, we wouldn't be able to host in Virginia, as far as I can see thus far, unless the team finds something different and does a particular analysis on Birst. And I think that still has to be done. But it really then means the whole of government concept kind of doesn't make sense because we're the largest piece of it. So I will talk to the team afterwards and see what they think, and see from a whole of government perspective if really the entire thing shouldn't be in Canada.
Well, I don't know what that actually means in terms of the work effort on Amazon and Infor side to migrate you to Canada. It's a question we can certainly ask them. It's not as straightforward as it might sound because again, for the technical folks on here, they'll understand that it's a multi-tenant environment. So you're on the same software, but you each have your own databases, but you are still in the same instance. You're in the same installation. So it's not like single tenant hosting where they just back up and restore you into another server in another country. It's a little more involved than that. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm just saying it's not quite as simple as if you're single tenant.
Okay. Well, we have a chat anyway, but it looks good so far.
Yeah, but if you have your own instance of Birst, I'm just saying, if you have your own instance of Birst for all of your data from TAMIS, Asacuda, and so on, then all you have to do is pull your additional data in from CloudSuite. I think you just have to think of that like another Asacuda. It's just another data source for your Birst instance in Canada.
Understand. Okay.
Oscar, do you want to proceed? Just
Paul, there's a question on the chat.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
And even Trevor has been raising his hand. I think that even Trevor has a question.
Can results be hosted to a site for review? Maybe you want to clarify that, Dimitri.
Right. So, whether it be use of internet or base connection for any third parties to see. So I know this is a web-based
So
platform, so we can read it as the primary users at the BRA. We can say host a dashboard or host a visualization. We have to then do that through some third party or this independent hosting tool. I just think about some of the visualization and public outreach stuff that may come about sometime down the road. So I'm just thinking about how that would pan out. I mean, as the end user thing, not really.
Apologize, Dimitri. I think we're having some challenges. It's just me.
yeah, even me, I thought I was the only person facing it, but
Yeah, couldn't hear well.
Okay, any better?
It does sound better.
yeah, it's better.
Right. I was saying, I'm just thinking down the road for the visualization and kind of public outreach. I'm thinking about how the third parties may want to see some of the information if we produce any macro level summaries. So I'm wondering if we have to do any posting of the dashboards through some third party means, or if Birst allows us to then publish, say, a dashboard or final visualization to another site or platform, to facilitate some sort of final reporting. I'm just thinking down the road. That's a way down the road sort of question.
You're thinking like on a government portal, that kind of situation?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
Oscar, has that come up on anything you've done before?
Well, technically that is possible, but now in terms of licensing, I'm not sure how that would work.
Okay.
But technically, yes, you can share the dashboard functionality on a different platform or incorporate this some of this functionality in a different portal. But in terms of licensing, that's what is not clear for me.
Yeah, I can follow up on the licensing, but if it's architecturally possible, that's the key thing.
Okay.
I'll follow up on the licensing. I mean, needless to say that it's not talking about the standard users that are called viewers or read only. You've got an eventually large number of independent users looking at it. So I can ask that question. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, because I know that's a fairly common thing to do for public sector to publish everything from financial results or budgets through to other data about performance targets. So I can follow up with that one if you'd like, Dimitri.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Trevor has a question. I see a raised hand.
Yeah, I had a question, but I'm good. I'm good now. I'm good.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Thank
So
you.
I'll continue with the video.
From the dashboards, takes some seconds. This is the first time I'm opening this dashboard. It's loading the information and generating everything on the screen. So this is what I was able to generate. This is like a simple dashboard that I created using this information. So I have a couple KPIs, key performance indicators. One is the total taxes. The other one is the number of items. I took the information that you are seeing here is just the information coming from the SAT Gen table, which is the SAT general segment table. So in this KPI, for example, you can see the total taxes, and you can see a little chart showing the evolution of the total taxes. So you can see that it goes up, then remains steady, then falls, then goes up again in 2017. And then, well, because this is just 2019 and has just the information of maybe 1 or 2 months, well, that's low. I also have the number of items, and then I can analyze this information by using the exports map. So in this map, you are seeing how much or which the total taxes are coming from which was the export country. And this is which this map is the second map, the destinations map is showing which country is the destination country. So looking at that information, let's say that the destination country in this case is US, and that has the highest total taxes reported on the SAT Gen table. Now, if we take a look to the right, this information is not coming from the same table. This information is coming from a view that was provided by IT. So this view is taking information from many different tables inside Asecuda, but the information that is returned here is the information that is used for the performance schedule report. It is showing by budget description the total amount that was collected. So as you can see, most of the information collected in the entire history using that information belongs to the value-added tax imports. Then in second place, we have the excise duty imports. Then we have import duties, and then we have more. But let's take a look at the smallest one. The smallest one is Comptroller of Customs fines. But I have, well, others like fuel tax levy and others. And you can see that information very easily here on this 3-map visualization. I also incorporated another analysis, which is showing you the taxes by mode of transport. So you can see the evolution of the total taxes by mode of transport. And we have some peaks. Let's take a look at the peaks. So for example, in October 2016, you have one peak, then it went down, then went up again in March. The highest peak was in July 2018. And let's get closer to today's date. So this information belongs to November of 2010. And well, we can scroll more because I have many years of information, as you can see. Let me go to the end. So this is the highest peak and belongs to October of 2018. And looks like every October, it's when you get more taxes by mode of transport. Okay, but this is not the only thing that we can do with the Asecuda space. Let's say that I want to create an ad hoc report. So I can go to Visualizer. This is the component that I use to generate reports. And from here, let's use one table like SAT total taxes. So I want to analyze the total taxes, and I want to analyze the number of items that are being imported or exported. I will create a visualization using both, but I can pick what kind of chart I want to use. So I want to combine bars, and I want to combine bars with lines. So I just select the secondary measure and set the type of measure that I want to use. Let's say spline. Okay, and then I define how I want to analyze this information. Let's say that I want to see this information I want to see the evolution. So I'm going to do it by year. So I can drag my year to the categories. And now it compares year over year, and it's comparing the total taxes and the number of items in total that we are getting. This is only for the first 100 records. So let me select all the records so we can have more information. Okay, this is the total. But I can break this information by something else. Let's say that I want to see this information by mode of transport. No problem. I can go to my attributes. This is my mode of transport table. The definitions that you are seeing here were not modified, but we can specify the name for each one of them and make that more clear to the user so that they can understand that this is mode of transport instead of MOT. Okay, but I want to see this information by description of the mode of transport. So I'm going to create a filter, just drag and drop, and then I can select which mode of transport I want to analyze. So let's say that I want to analyze only air transport for now. So I select it, click apply, And now this information is comparing just the mode of transport of by air, via air. Okay, if you want to change it, no problem. We can go back to the filter, select the filter again, and then modify it to be sea transport. So let's analyze only sea transport and see how it goes. And you see that the trend looks a little different. So the line is showing the total number of items and the bars are showing the total taxes. But let's say that you want to, well, let's modify this. No, I don't want to see this by mode of transport. So I can get rid of the mode of transport and I can add something else. So what other information I was able to get from here? I have the declarants. So I can see this information by declarant. And let's compare by, so instead of years, I want to see by declarants. Let's see what we get really quickly. So now for every declarant, it's going to generate like one point on the line, and then it's comparing the years in colors. But we have too much information. Let me remove the number of items quickly so that we compare everything in bars. And then I'm gonna sort this information descending by the total taxes to make that easy to compare and see which declarants are giving me more taxes than the others. So looking at this, we can quickly say that customs and excise is giving me most of the taxes, and then we have central customs, then Calvin Alkins, then FedEx, then Ronald. Well, and I can perform as many analysis as I want with this information. This is just a sample. Okay. And I also created, well, more spaces. So for example, I have TAMIS. So let's go to TAMIS quickly to create another ad hoc report. I just switch to my TAMIS space. I don't want to save this report. So I'm just going to TAMIS. And then in TAMIS, I can go to Visualizer to start creating a new analysis. So from here, let's use the total taxable. No, sorry, the total collected. It's the measure I want to use, total collected. And I want to compare the total collected amount by something else. So let's say that I want to see this information by revenue header. So you can quickly compare your different revenue headers, and I can create different groups by revenue types. Let's sort this information again. Revenue, and let me remove the type from the sorting. It's not allowing me to do it. Okay, so let's keep it like that. So you can quickly see that the revenue header, value added tax, the total value is 2010 millions in the history that we have here, just showing the first 100 records. If I select all of them, well, I will get much more information. So the total tax, the total value added tax is that amount. Then the second is the pay as you earn. The third is the corporation income tax prepayment, and then withholding tax. And we can see the same information by the revenue header, this is the prior was the actual revenue, as you can see on top. Then we have the arrears for this year. So for value added tax, we have only like 36 millions. For pay as you earn, we have like 42 millions. And if I go back to the arrears of the previous year, well, I see that we have corporation income tax prepayment from periods before this year. So this is the kind of analysis that you can do with the solution. So as I showed you, I was able to connect the different data sources as one, combine them in one report. I was able to analyze some information from Asicuda very easily, and then I went to TAMIS to do some analysis as well. So this is all I have to show. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you would like to have another meeting, just let us know so we can organize another meeting to respond to any questions that you may have. Thanks much for your time and have a good day.
So I have one question. So this dashboard links can be shared across, like for example, we want to publish this dashboard to the senior management, right? So the link can be shared and it can be accessed via the browser. Can that be done?
Yes, everything with this tool is done via browser. So I'm just using my web browser. I'm switching to a live instance so that you can see what we have developed. So this was the VRA complete. This is one of the spaces that we created at that time. And this is how this is
But the
yes.
user on the other side, should they have a license to view it, or how does that work?
Yes, they need a license. So if I log off from the system, so the only thing that a user needs is to have a web browser. With the web browser, this is what is presented the first time. So you have to type your username and password to be able to access the system. So you can use any web browser. You click login. And because this is on the cloud, you can access this from anywhere if you have the correct credentials. And then you can specify which space you want to use. So for example, if we use the VRA complete, which is the one that combined the data from the different systems, this is what is presented. So internally, you see that we have different data sources, and those different data sources were used to.
Oscar, I was asking in terms of the user. Say suppose you are the developer and you have developed a dashboard for me, and I want to view the dashboard and drill down, use some filters and play with the dashboard, right?
Yes. Yes, with the
So for
user, when the
that,
user logs in, the user can be presented directly with the dashboard. The user don't have to see anything else. They can be
so the
presented
user
directly
must
with the
log in
dashboard.
first, right?
Yes, they need to log in. They need to log in.
There is a licensing side, but I mean, obviously,
The view licenses, right?
there's security. I mean, this is not public data, right? So you have to decide the security appropriate, what data access any individual user has, right? I think that's where Dimitri was talking about, was if there was a publishing, of data to the public domain, that would be different. But I mean, otherwise, the whole point is you establish the security, based on the individual's profile, what data they should see and what data they shouldn't see, right?
Yes,
But
correct.
otherwise, these are viewer licenses that you're talking about, right? They're people who are not building reports but viewing the data. So they're not expensive. I do have some. I didn't come into the presentation with all of the pricing finalized, but I can walk you through what is firm and what's still up in the air, depending on what direction you want to go. If you'd like to move into that topic at this point.
No worries, Paul. You can share it over an email, the PDF of the price licensing structure and what would be the cost. That is fine. So we just wanted to understand the product, and I think demo that helped us. So also, like, it is a multi-platform, right? Both on we have a mobile app as well, right? For Burst. That is.
Sorry, say that again. You have no.
We have a mobile application for Burst as well.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Whether we're talking Tableau or Birst, you have the same components, and as an add-on, I mean, just I know we're going to talk about Tableau on a different day, but the fundamental difference between Tableau and what you're seeing here today with Birst is all of the tools here for us to be able to do the network BI, be able to blend the data across multiple systems. That's the strength of Birst, and that would be the strength of Data Manager, data stream. If you added that onto your Cognos licensing. I mean, in a sense, that's what's kind of really building.
Yeah.
What historically has been called your data warehouse. Tableau.
Yes, slightly digressing to Tableau, but Tableau has something called data prep, right? Will that not be?
Yeah, I mean, Tableau won't have the ability for us to blend data across multiple systems. We can have them all showing in the same location, but they're really individual dashboards, with single source data. We would have to get a third-party tool in like Alteryx to actually build the data warehouse. But
Yeah.
Tableau can
Or as
go
John,
again.
sorry, and as John is mentioning, the Tableau prep is one of the components that comes with the tool when you buy a creator license. You have access to Tableau prep, but Tableau prep is similar to an ETL tool. It's similar,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
what-
not an ETL tool because it is very intuitive, it's easy to use, but is not as powerful as a complete ETL tool, but can be used to connect to different data sources. You can do the data preparation, you can organize, filter, change data types, create aggregations, that kind of things. But
So
at
we
the
can
end,
create jobs
you can read.
databases, right? That is what I just wanted to know. Like
Yeah,
using,
correct.
okay.
With Tableau Prep, yes, you can read and write. It's like using an ETL tool, but it's not as powerful as the ETL tool. And you also need to have like a repository where you are going to drop all the data that you are blending. So you have to do that work if you're using Tableau Prep.
Yeah,
The
since
advantage,
it will be an on-premise, it will be, I mean, if it's on-premise, it would be on our databases, right?
correct, that's correct. In Birst, that's one advantage. And with the ADR technology, the advantage is that you get connected to your data source, you define some characteristics of your data. For example, you said this is I will have a customer dimension, I will have a product dimension, and then you specify this field belongs to the customer dimension, this field belongs to the product dimension, this is going to be a measure, and then with one click, it automatically internally generates everything for you, getting connected to the data source, creating the tables in the repository to hold that information for you, and creating the business model that you can use when you are analyzing data. That's one of the advantages of Birst.
Okay.
Everything is done by the tool on the
Tableau
web.
doesn't have a staging tables. That's what you're saying, right? It directly pulls from the data sources.
Yes, correct. It handles everything for you if you're using the ADR technology. And if you are not using the ADR technology, you can also get connected to your different data sources. You can identify what changes you want to do with the data, and everything is stored in the same Birst repository in the cloud. And then you can combine or blend the data between different spaces which are independent. So you can define security for Asecura. Only some specific users can access Asecura. Some can access Tamis. Some can access Cloud Suite, for example. And then you can define or share some information between them for other users. You have complete control over that. In that case, you only buy the licenses and everything is stored in the cloud. In Tableau, you need to buy the licenses. You need to make the installation. If you are doing data preparation, you can do it with Tableau Prep, but you need to develop that and you need to manage your databases that will hold that information.
Yeah, since it's an on-premise solution, we have to manage the databases.
That is correct. You need to handle, to manage everything, the servers and the licensing and everything. And for the other question that you were asking, with Birst you have the application for the App Store and for Google. Yes, sorry.
Sorry. Since it would be an on-premise, there would be a one-time, it would be a perpetual license, Tableau, or it would be a subscription-based?
No, Tableau is subscription-based.
It's moved to subscription over the last few years.
Okay, even for the on-premise version.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
even for on-prem. I mean, the industry's kind of going that direction. So, so yeah, it's an annual fee, which includes, of course, your support.
Okay.
I did pricing for years, John. I mean, it came up, relatively inexpensive. It was just over 5,000. So I mean, I know what Cognos cost because we sold it for years. I think you'll find whether it's Tableau or whether it's Birst, if the Birst is an add-on to the existing license, it's going to be in the same ballpark. So the Tableau and the Birst, if it's the existing footprint, will be very nominal costs. The Birst would be more expensive if we have a separate installation in Canada, because even though we'll be able to leverage some of the purchasing power from the government contract, there's still hard costs, right? It's still a separate installation. But I still think it'll probably run cheaper because, the subscription costs, still is covering all of your data storage, your backup recovery, your upgrades, all of that needs to be, of course, factored in when you're comparing to an on-prem. Your total cost of ownership usually does work out cheaper, if it's a cloud solution, right, over the long run. And the ADR, what Oscar was really highlighting,
Paul,
that's the big difference.
For
Sorry,
Burst,
go
you
ahead.
can give us two options. One is the one which you were seeing, and the other is a single instance in Canada. And for Tableau, we would like to look at the on-premise version and followed by a demo. Maybe if not, like, I think we are over time, right? So maybe
Yes, we are. But if you want to let us know, I mean, maybe before we wrap, what a convenient time might be for the Tableau presentation, we could work towards that date.
give me
Have the
some time.
prices already.
Yeah, we'll get back to you for Tableau. Give me a day's time. I'll
Okay.
I'll get back to you by tomorrow, and we'll have a discussion internally and get back to you.
Okay, that'd be fine. And I'll try and do a summary across all of your options so that you can, the naming conventions for the different user types are slightly different, but you know, they're still mostly the same. So I'll do like a table where you can compare, you know, Cognos to Birst to Tableau and get a sense then of what the equivalent license is in each.
Sure, sure. And also, if you could share me the features list for both Tableau and Burst, that would be helpful. If you have any brochure for Burst and Tableau, I mean, you have shared for Burst, maybe for Tableau on-prem, if that will.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I can get Juan from our office to send something when the meeting wraps up.
Sure, thanks.
In the case of Tableau, just so you know, Tableau is very rigid on pricing. Like, in fact, they even publish it on their website. It's literally non-negotiable with Tableau. So what I give you is actually something you can see it even on their website. But we'll have more discretionary control with Infor because the relationship's quite deep in the case of Infor, and this is just a very small add-on to a much larger license. So we've got much more flexibility, but unfortunately with Tableau, it is what it is. It's the same price everywhere in the world at all times.
Noted, Paul. Understood.
Yeah.
Good.
So John, would you like to see, well, the component, the designer that I showed you before, now in the newer version looks like this. Everything is web-based, so now it's not using Flash. This is designer.
Oscar, before you go there, I mean, we have the flexibility on our side to continue, but I know we're running late. And we're also going into more of a deep dive on the technical side. We're happy to continue if people are interested in staying. If others have to leave, I appreciate it, but we've still got the recording on. We could wrap up this last section, and if people want to review it later, we could do that as well. I'll share the link for the recording once we conclude.
It
How
sounds
much
like a
time
good
would it
idea.
take?
I've got
Yeah.
15 more minutes.
Okay, great. Okay, go ahead then, Oscar.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So this is how designer appears now in the newer version. So in the newer version, this is the reporting tool. So for example, if you want to create a quick report, you just start by adding this information from your subject area, which is the business model that is generated automatically for you when you are using the ADR technology. And you define what you want to add. For example, if I want to, let's start with a measure. So with a measure, I think this is one that we used for
Sorry,
for the
not
presentation.
to cross you, Paul. I thought you meant you were gonna wrap up because because this looked more like the detail.
Oh, sorry. What I was suggesting was, I mean, I can appreciate this is, you know, only for the developers in the audience, but we could continue this with any of the developers who want to stay on. But I appreciate, you know, that we're over the time, and again, I think we're into the lowest level of detail. But again, you know,
Yeah.
we're happy to cover this for those in the team, like you know, like John and others that would like to see the latest version.
Yeah.
But if you want to
Okay.
drop, I mean, I completely understand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I'll send the link shortly.
Okay, perfect. So here you just select, I want to use this measure, for example, so you can start in design mode, or you can actually see the amounts. So let me make this bigger. So I just selected one measure, and then you can start adding additional information. For example, by mode of transport. Well, it's not available on this one. Well, this isn't working well because it has been a while. Let me switch to another space that I was working on with the ADR technology to show you a better example. Okay, so in this one, I will go to designer. So I switch to a different space, completely independent from the others. They cannot see information between them unless we share some of the information. So let me start again. If I want to create a quick report, I just start adding the columns. I go to my business model, select my measures, and in the measures, I can start by adding information. 1 second. Okay, let's say I want to see this by chip mode. I think it's using something. 1 second, I have to log on again. Okay, measures. Okay, so I want to see the total sales, for example, and I want to see the total sales and quantity. So I added 2 measures. And now I want to see that information by ship mode, for example. So I click ship mode and then click on results, and I can quickly see the report that is generated. Okay. And then let's say that I want to see this information not just by chip mode. I also want to see this information by product, by category. So I can add the category, and you see, we get everything from the web. If I want to generate maybe a grouping, I can break this report into a different section. So I can create a surrounding group, and then in the surrounding group, I can move things around. So let's say I want the category to go to the group header. So for every group header, I want to see the chip mode. So for every chip mode, it's showing me all the different for every category, it's showing me the chip modes. Well, this is how you can play with this tool. Then you can generate this in PDF format, in Excel, in any format that you want. But the great advantage that has Birst is this one. If I go to the modeler, in the modeler is where I define how I am getting connected to the data. So if I want to connect to my data, I select what is going to be my data source. I can use SQL databases, Amazon, Dropbox, Google Analytics, well, different applications, secure FTP sites, etc. And then I can go to prepare. And in prepare, I can see the information that was loaded or generated. This is one of the tables that I loaded for my model. And then in relate, using the ADR technology, I can specify how many dimensions I want to use. For my model, I created 3 different dimensions: customer, product, and chip mode. And I don't have to develop any ETL process. It's just this definition. I want a dimension called customer with 1 level called customer, 1 product with the same level, and 1 chip mode with the same level. And then I define the relationship between the table and the dimensions that I'm specifying. So I go to my model options, and for example, category, I know that category is related to the product dimension. So I specify that this field is going to be treated as an attribute. The data type is going to be text, and it's related to the product dimension. For city, for example, I am relating this information with the customer. So it is related to the customer dimension. It's going to be an attribute. And let's look at one of the measures. For example, a measure like profit. Profit is just measure. So I specify this is going to be measure. And I select those characteristics for the data. And then as I make any modification, I just go here and I click on publish. And it automatically and internally generates all the ETL processes, all the tables that will hold this information, all the relationships between that information, and it's going to generate that business model that I was showing you before in the other component. Now, internally with that definition, it automatically defined the following. If I go to the space management and I look at the view processed data, it generated automatically this customer.customer, product.product, and chip mode.chip mode. If I look at the customer data and preview the data, it automatically generated this information internally for me. I don't have to bother on making this definition. It handles the history, the updates, the new records, everything is handled automatically by Birst. So this is one great advantage that this tool can offer. And then if I want to look at the measured data, it generated like one fact table that is combining all this information. Here I have a preview, but this is internal inside the Birst repository. But at the end, the end user don't have to deal with anything, any of this. The user just have to go here and go, for example, to Visualizer. And in Visualizer, the user can start creating any kind of report. So for example, if I want to see the evolution of my sales, I click on the sales measure, and I want to see that information by year, month. So I can search year, month, and drag the year, month as category. And I have the evolution. If that's not the kind of chart that I want, I would like lines, no problem. If I don't want lines, I want spline, no problem. I can do that with as simple as this. So for the end user, it's something simple, organized, that looks good. For example, attributes, we have a customer, which is the customer dimension. Inside the customer dimension, it shows that we have city, country, customer ID, name, postal code, segment, state. All this information is already defined and clear for the user. For the product, we have these attributes and the product ID and the product name. And then we can build whatever we want. Let's say that I want colors for every category. So I just drag and drop, and now we have the comparison of the evolution by category of products, but very quick. So everything from development, starting from scratch to the end user, to the end result, sorry, it's done in a fraction of the time that it would require you to get the server, install the operating system, install the database, install the application to handle the data, install the application that you're using for reporting. In this case, you just access your instance, and by accessing your instance, then you have access to everything, and you can develop, you can create reports, dashboards, whatever you want very quickly. And for a dashboard, for example, I created a dashboard when I was playing with this information, and in this dashboard, for example, we have some KPIs at the top. I am adding a couple reports that are related. And then this dashboard is dynamic. For example, if I want to filter furniture, I just visually select furniture. And as you can see at the top, it filtered furniture. And then we have the subcategories. If I don't want to see all the subcategories, just one, I can do it visually from here. For example, chairs. I just select chairs. And now I'm looking just at chairs. How much is the total sales? How much or the quantity that was sold by state. If I don't want to do chairs, I can remove that filter and go back to furniture. If I don't want to see furniture and I want to see everything, I just clear that filter. And it's easy to use, and everything is done via the web browser. Nothing apart from the web browser is running on my computer. And if I start working on this computer, save everything, and then I can continue from a different place, or any other person from my team can continue developing or using the dashboards. These are the kind of advantages that this tool is offering. Any question?
Right. Hey, good afternoon. What would the measure creation look like? Measures pre-built already. Yeah.
You want to see from scratch how it works? Sure. Let me create something quick here. So I'm going to start with a new space, and a space in Birst is like a completely independent space as its name, where you can define the data sources, the permissions, the data, the relationships, everything. So how easy it is to create a new space completely independent? Just like this. You click here, I want to create a new enterprise space. You give it a name. So BRA demo 2022 March 10. So I click on this and it is right now creating a completely new space, totally independent from everything else that I have on my server. So it's empty. And then I can start by connecting to any data source. Because we don't have much time, I'm just going to add an Excel file. So I just select from documents. I want, let me use this information that I have right here. So I want to use this file, sample superstore. I click OK. And right now it is like uploading the file to my server. And it's going to show me what information is available on that file. Okay, so it's reading the file, showing me like a sample of the data. I just want to use this one. I don't want to use people. I don't want to use returns. I just want to get connected to the data and then click connect. So when I'm done, I just click done and import files. When I click import files, it is like generating like a staging table with this information inside the Birst repository for this particular space. Remember, the space is completely independent from everything else. So it's like uploading this data for the first time. Then when I'm ready with the data that I want to use, I can start preparing. So I go to my prepare option. In the prepare option, this is the table that I just opened, right? But I need to enable that information. So I want to show source because I want to use that table. I want to use the orders table. And then I need to specify, well, I need to publish this to make a quick change. Okay, so it's like loading the data, enabling this data to be available. So what I'm doing right now, if I have 100 users, 200 users, it will be available for all of them in a few seconds. Okay, perfect. And now that I have the information ready, I can go to relate. And in relate is where I define the special characteristics for this data. Okay, so I have just one table called orders. But then I need to define the hierarchies. I'm going to start by creating a customer hierarchy. So I just click hierarchy, click plus, and give it a name. My name is going to be customer. And this is going to be the level. And then from the level, I go to orders, which is my table, and select that the customer is coming from customer ID. This is like the lowest level for my dimension. And I have created my first dimension. Then what I have to do, I have to relate the other fields that are related with the customer ID. So I go to the model properties and I say, okay, for my customer, I want country region, customer ID, I want customer name, I want state, I want city, I want, okay, let's leave it like that. And then I specify, I did something incorrectly. 1 second, please. So let's start with the city. So I have city, and then I said I want to use this as an attribute related to customer. For the country region, I'm going to do the same thing. For the country region, this is going to be an attribute, and it's going to be related to customer. Okay, so I just defined, let's say that I just want that and the customer name. So customer name is going to appear as an attribute and is going to be related to the customer dimension. And then we already have those measures. We have quantity, profit, sales. Those are marked as measures, so I'm not going to do anything else. So right now my repository is empty, but I can process my data. I can click publish, and when I click publish, Birst is analyzing all the definition that I have created, is reorganizing all the tables internally to hold the information for the customer and to hold the fact information with the measures and relate that information with customer. And in a few seconds, everything will be ready just to be analyzed. I think I missed one step. Sorry, I think I missed something. 1 second. So I go to orders. I think this is source. Yeah, I just missed this. To enable the relationship. So if I need to reprocess, I just click here and publish, and it do all the other work for me. And this is like creating an ETL process. I don't have to deal with it every day. It will automatically, if I'm using a live connection, it will automatically repopulate that information when I schedule it. Will populate the time, the customer dimension and all the fact tables. So it's gonna finish. It's finished now. And now that I have just created that, I can start developing something. So let's say that I want to create an ad hoc report. So I go to Visualizer, and here I can see the business model that was generated. So if I go to attributes, remember that we created customer. So this is my customer dimension, and my customer dimension includes city, country, customer ID, customer name, because this is the only dimension that I defined, remember? And then I have some measures. The measures are already there: discount, postal code, profit, sales. So if I want to create something, sales by customer country, no, by city. Click on that. Well, something didn't work. So customer by customer name. Well, didn't like this presentation, maybe in table. Well, I think I missed one step or something. So let's fix it. So we can fix that quickly. I just go to my modeler. Everything is done on the web. I have to go to relate. And in relate, I think I missed something. Let me check quickly. So we have the hierarchy. We have this. The customer is generated. Is customer with orders. Okay. Okay, like this, source properties, customer. Maybe I just have to delete everything that was generated and regenerate it. So the ADR, or automated data refinement technology, it's available when you have Birst Enterprise. If not, you are using another component where you can define every table, create the relationships between the tables, filter some information, and build your data model right away. Let me start with the table. Okay, so I want to see sales. So I have my total sales, and then I go to attributes by customer and CT. Well, something is not right, but it's supposed to be generating the data. I think I missed one step. But do you have any questions for now?
I apologize. We've got this one thing here, but I think you can appreciate we're just doing this on the fly. Like there's no script. We're just grabbing data and making up examples as we go. So there's always risks in a situation like that where we haven't had a chance to think through even the design or the data sources or anything, and we're using a setup from, well, a long time ago. But
Yeah.
hopefully the concepts are getting through. I think that's really the important thing here. I think even from the first presentation, you can get a sense that, this auto data refinement and the network BI, those are really the two things that make Birst, such a compelling offering. Not that we, don't love Tableau. We do love Tableau. That's one of the reasons we shifted away from Cognos to Tableau. We see Tableau more where I hate to say it, but where data warehouse strategies have failed, we tend to find people buying Tableau who are end users who are frustrated trying to get reports from a legacy data warehouse situation where, you know, it just takes too long, too much effort to just get the kind of simple reports that they want, dashboards that they want against, you know, their one core system, you know. So these are often people that are using Excel and very frustrated. And, you know, by licensing, you know, Tableau for a handful of users, they just go straight against whatever their application is and get what they want. It's kind of a, you know, a strategy that's a little bit of an end game around IT. I mean, to be honest, we find most of the people licensing Tableau from us, in a lot of cases, they're not IT. They're people in different parts of the organization. You know, especially in private sector. You know, people in marketing and areas like that that are kind of outside the mainstream IT finance, you know, nexus, and they know what they want and they just want a tool to do it. So that's where Tableau shines, and as you can see, you know, it doesn't focus so much on the back end ETL type of functionality, whereas Birst really, you know, we think has the balance. It's got what you need for the ETL. It's got an enterprise capability for a large, complex organization, but it still has the user-friendly dashboards. It still has the reports, the interaction, you know, that people need. So, you know, we consider it, you know, a proper solution for a complex organization as opposed to more of a point solution, which is often the case, you know, with Tableau. Not to say that some very big organizations don't have major investments in Tableau, but it does tend to be, you know, a little bit more of a point solution. We've got some complex deployments, like in Puerto Rico, we've got, you know, organizations that are using Tableau to let all of their doctors, you know, insurance companies that are letting doctors see, you know, the activity that they've got flowing through, you know, the insurance company. So it's, you know, it's complex and involving a lot of people, but it's not the same as it being their main solution for, you know, running against their finance solutions. If that gives you some perspective.
Yeah.
So
Any
I think
question?
yeah, sure. Go ahead. John, were you going to say something?
So maybe Paul and Oscar, like since we are like 40 minutes past our time, is it okay if we wrap it up for now?
Yeah.
That's
I think we've covered everything and more. So I'll stop the recording here.